What's good, YouTube? We are back for another Tuesday Live this week. In case you haven't figured it out, Untitled. We're going to be casting some pen blanks today. I've got my bespoke mold out, so we will be casting some bespoke blanks. My bespoke blanks are about 8+ inches long. They're basically made, sometimes they're called bespoke blanks, sometimes they're called custom pen blanks, but the end result usually looks something like this, where it's just a longer rod. So that's what we're going to be casting. This is a P-Town subby mold. This is the 3/4 by 8.5 inch bespoke vertical mold that comes from P-Town subby, like I said. I'm going to have some over pour, so I will pour a little extra either into some ring blanks or some pen blanks. It just depends on what we're feeling like. So I like to use either Caster's Choice mica powders or Divine Pigments. If anyone's on here and wants to suggest some colors, that would be awesome. Plan on 3 colors tonight. That's pretty standard for me. I like to do 3 colors. That's pretty much run of the mill stuff. And because we're using the bespoke mold, we will be using the big California Air Tools 5-gallon pressure pot tonight. So we have quite a bit there. Todd works. He's here. He's helping us moderate the chat. I appreciate him being here. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. His information is in the description. He's got his website and his YouTube channel. Blue or red? Blue or red is always good. I go through a ton of Caster's Choice Brilliant Blue. I also go through quite a bit of orange. But let's go ahead and do red. If I can find it. Where's red? Oh, come on. Oh, here it is. Here's blood red. Let's go, if I can find it, cobalt blue. I really like cobalt blue because it's darker. There's cobalt blue. So red, blue, and let's go one other. Green. Okay. Do you want a light green or a dark green? We've got 2 dark colors, so maybe a light green would work. Let's go with some lime green, just to throw things, just to switch things up. So we have Caster's Choice, blood red, cobalt blue, and lime green, not necessarily in that order. Okay. So those are our 3 colors. We are using Alumilite Clear Slow tonight, so we'll have a little more open time. My shop right now is sitting at 56% humidity, so it's a little high, but we're color casting, so that should be okay. The color casting, we're also at 66 degrees, so it's a little cold down here, but I put the Alumilite upstairs It was 91 today in Ohio. It was a hot one. Mic is cutting out a little. It looks like it's still connected, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. Hopefully we're okay. Let me know if we completely lose audio. That would not be ideal, but if it happens, it happens. All right, so we're going to pour 90 grams of A, and then 90 grams of B, because Alumilite clear slow is a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you pour 90 grams of A, you're going to pour 90 grams of B. And before we really do anything, we're going to glove up just for safety. Some people do have a reaction to the different resins. Just make sure you take the proper safety precautions if you're casting. Okay. So let's go ahead and turn on the scale. We're in grams. Our scale is zeroed out at 0 grams. We want to make sure that that is the case, because if that's not the case, then we could get an inaccurate reading. And if our ratio's off, if we have too much A, then the resin might not set up. If we have too much B, then it could get really hard and brittle. So I'm going to start pouring 90 grams of A, and I use these pumps. It allows me to control the pours a lot better. We're at 75. $85, $90. Maybe not. There's our 90. Okay, so there's 90. I'm going to pour 90 grams. We're zeroed out, so we're good to go. I'm going to pour 90 grams of A into all 3 cups. Then I'm going to add color. Then we'll pour the B in. And we'll have a conversation as we go. $89. If anything, you want to be just a little bit over on the B side, because if you're over on the A side, like I mentioned earlier, if you're over on the A side, your resin won't set up, and that can be an expensive mistake. So how's everybody's Tuesday? I feel like since the last time we talked, I feel like it's been a really long week. It hasn't been a bad week, it's just been a long week. So what has everyone been up to in the last week since we last talked? All right, so we're at 90 on all 3 of these, so I'm going to put my A over here. And one thing, just as a something to note, my A is labeled here. It's a 12-minute working time, 4 hours to demold, so it'll be in the pot for 4 hours. The other thing I do is I label my pump A, just so I know there's absolutely no confusion. I know that if I'm pouring A, I'm pouring A. If I'm pouring B, I'm pouring B. Okay, I'm going to check real quick. Okay, I actually have an open cobalt blue, so we'll use that one first. Depending on how much translucency, I don't know, that might not be a word, but how translucent you want your blanks to be, or how solid you want your blanks to be, that's how much Caster's Choice mica powder I like to put in. I usually like a solid blank, so I put in 3 heaping scoops. So 1, 2, 3. Again, there's no right or wrong amount to this. It just depends on the look that you want to go for. So again, 1, 2, 3. I love the way the lime green looks. It's one of my favorite colors, but the most underrated Caster's Choice mica powder by far is chocolate. Chocolate just has a color about it that is just insane, and it goes well with a lot of combinations. Okay, so I'm going to get my Caster's Choice micas mixed into the A just a little bit to get some color into the resin. Again, I'm in my basement tonight casting, so I mentioned earlier, we're sitting at about 56% humidity, which is a little higher than I'd like, but because we're color casting, that should be okay. And we're sitting at about 66 degrees, which is a little on the chilly side, but I took my resin upstairs, I took my Alumilite upstairs just so it wouldn't be quite as chilled, because the colder it is, the longer it takes to get up to temperature. All right, now that we have these 3 colors mixed, I'm going to put my colors away, and let's take a look at the chat. New table for my entryway. Tables are on my list. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. I'm hoping sooner rather than later we can get a garage built, but that depends on things that are not in my control, so it'll be what it'll be. Ray, what's up? So again, we have cobalt blue, lime green, and blood red. These are the mica powders from Caster's Choice. So now that I have these, I'm going to go ahead and put my colors and resin on the scale again. I'm zeroing out again because 90 grams of A, 90 grams of B. If this doesn't read 0, I have to know to add 90 to that, or just to make it easy, if I zero it out, it says 0, even though there's the cup, the resin, and the popsicle stick. So now I'm going to put in my B. Oh, this is not good. My B is completely seized up, so we're going to have to pour this without the pump tonight, which is okay. I was just hoping to not have to do that. It's not the end of the world, it's just not preferable, if you get what I'm saying. Actually, forgot I just got these new pumps. I wonder if hopefully these work. I wasn't expecting to try these out on the live stream, but why not? Clear cast blanks. Ray? What are you clear casting? I've dabbled a little bit in clear casting, and I do it occasionally, but it's not my it's not the thing that I'm known for. Not that I necessarily think I'm known for anything, but it's not necessarily my my forte. If I loosen the top of the pump, let me try that. So, yeah, okay. All right, we've got a new pump in here. Hopefully this works. We might just get lucky on this, guys. Look at that. Now I don't have my marker to mark B, but let's make sure we're turned on here. We're at 0, and let's start pumping B into the. There we go. 90 grams of B. We're at 57, 73, 85. All right. There's our 90. Let me double check. Yeah, we might be a little over on that one. But again, more B is okay. It's more A that's a problem. I really think it's time to replace this scale. Sometimes it's good and sometimes it gives me fits. And it's charged. It's got battery life. It served me well so far, but sometimes you just gotta replace things. All right, there's 90. Man, my scale is going crazy tonight. I don't know what its deal is. All right, we're 0 out, so we're good to pour some more. $50, $70. Like it gets close to 90 and then it freaks out. 88, 90. Okay, we're calling that good. Now that we have these all poured, I'm going to start stirring these. Now for good color separation, if you've heard me cast before, if you've heard one of my demos, you'll know that 95 to 100 degrees is where you'll get good color separation. If you pour before 95 degrees, you're more prone to color blending. And as long as your resin is thoroughly mixed, there's nothing wrong with color blending. If that's the look you're going for, then by all means, that's fine. But if you're looking for color separation, you really want to pour in that 95 to 100 degree range. If it gets up 105, 110, then you're really going up against the clock. You got to get that resin into the pot before it sets up. So now we're just going to stir here for a while. You want to make sure you want to scrape the sides to make sure all the resin gets mixed in. Also, I'm using cups that I just get from Acme, from the grocery store. And forget, these say they are, I forget, 9-ounce cups. This is what I get. Um, 9 ounces. With 9 ounces, with 9 ounce cups, I can comfortably pour about 200 grams total in a cup before I feel like I'm getting ready to top out. So, we only poured 180 in each of these tonight, but it's almost 600 grams of resin between the 3 cups that I could pour. So that's a pretty significant pour. That's definitely enough to do a block mold pour or something like that. Sometimes I stir clockwise, sometimes I stir counterclockwise. Let me move this another way. If you're clear casting, you'll be able to better tell if your resin is mixed. If it seems cloudy or there's wisps of or trails or something that look like that, your Alumilite hasn't been properly mixed yet. If it seems pretty clear, then and there's no streaks or wisps or anything like that, then you're probably pretty good. I know there are people who do clear casts that pour before 95 just because they pour in volumes. They pour volumes that are far larger than what I have here. Scrape the sides. That lime green is nice. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that lime green on camera. Jim, what's up? Not too late at all. We're just stirring. We're stirring resin. We're going to pour it into some bespoke mold here. We'll get 4 bespoke blanks, and then we'll take the rest and do either some ring blanks, pen blanks, or something like that. Now I use a Harbor Freight temperature gun. This is just I don't know. It's called Centec infrared thermometer. This is just one I get at Harbor Freight, and I usually start using it once the cups feel warm. The cups that I get that I showed earlier, those paper cups, they're not waxed. If you get waxed cups for resin casting, when that reaction happens and the resin gets warm, the wax can melt into your resin and potentially mess up your blank and mess up your cast. You don't want that. Now, going back to something I started to touch on earlier, one way to check, at least with Caster's Choice mica powders, if you are looking for a solid color look and something that's not transparent or translucent, one way to do that is to look at the popsicle test. So if I pull this popsicle out and it's completely covered and you can't see any of the wood grain on the popsicle stick, then I know that I've got pretty good coverage. If I can see the grain through the color, then I know that I'll get more of a translucent effect. And again, that's all based on how much mica you put in the in your resin. So if I only put a small touch, then I'll get a more translucent look than if I pour in 3 heaping scoops worth. And I know I'm kind of jumping around here, but I usually don't start using my infrared thermometer temperature gun until I can start to feel the cups heat up, because once the cups start to heat up, our body temperatures, roughly are 98.6. So once it starts to feel a little warm, we know we're probably in the 80s or so, at least. So that's when I start checking my temperature, just to see how much further we have to go. Now here's the $1 million question. Do we add macro pearl to give these blanks some shimmer and glitz and glamour, or do we just leave these colors as they are and let them stand out on their own? Because macro pearl gives a like a shimmery, shiny look, almost like not necessarily diamonds, because there are a couple blank makers that deal with diamond dust and things like that, and that's not necessarily what I their products are great, and I'm not claiming to try to compete with them at all, but it just gives the macro pearl gives a fun effect to the blanks. Sometimes it's sometimes the blanks warrant them, sometimes the colors just stand out on their own. Honestly, it just depends on what I'm feeling that day a lot of times. It's been a long time. It's been too long since I've turned a diamond cast blank. Diamond cast is Tim McKenzie. He runs Diamond Cast. He has a lot of ring blanks and bespoke blanks. He does awesome work. I love turning his blanks. One day when I get brave enough to get back to kitless pen blank making or bespoke pen making, I do have a collection of his blanks in my personal stash that I definitely want to turn, but those blanks are nice, and I'd much rather ruin a couple of blanks that I cast rather than ruin one that is really, really nice. All right, let's check the chat real quick. Make them shine. Make them shine, make them shine, make them shine. Why not? So when you add the macro pearl, it doesn't really matter, but it is just like the mica powders. You do want to make sure they get completely stirred in before you pour your blanks. You can, it's just like anything else. The more micro pearl you add, macro pearl. The more macro pearl you add, the shimmery the more it'll shimmer. The less you add, the more subtle it'll be. My standard is usually putting one heaping spoonful into each color that I cast, but sometimes it calls for more. Sometimes it calls for less. It just depends on, again, what effect are you going for? So now again, I'm going to stir this in. And you'll still be able to see the macro pearl in there, but you'll also be able to see the clumps that aren't mixed in yet. We actually might be getting close because this blue is getting pretty thick. So is this green. That's the nice thing about Alumilite, especially clear and clear slow. When you color cast, as long as 2 of your 3 colors, in my case, or as long as all but 1 color, depending on if you're doing, 2 colors or 4 colors or 8 colors, it doesn't matter. As long as all but 1 of your colors is up to temperature, it doesn't matter if that 3rd one isn't quite up to temperature, because those other 2 colors will take care of the color separation. All right. Also, when you check the temperature, you're going to want to check the temperature right after you stir. So I'm stirring the blue. I take my popsicle stick out. I check the temperature. We're actually at 97, so we're actually ready to go. With 90 blue, I'm going to stir this green a little bit. Check the temperature. Yeah, 98, 97. So we are ready to pour. So I'm going to actually do what we're calling a dirty pour. So I have a used Powerade bottle. I'm going to pour the green in first. I'm just going to scrape this out. You want to scrape as much as you can out because resin is expensive. And I'm going to let blue and red compete for dominance here. And again, your pouring technique is up to you. You might see something that you like, you might see something that you don't like, but make it your own. That's what it's all about. So now I can scrape this blue into here. All right, there's blue. And let's take care of the rest of this red. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a couple little quick stirs while it's in there. We'll be able to get that. All right, now the one thing I did forget to do is I forgot to use the mold release. So I'm going to spray this Stoner mold release into these silicone molds real quick. I should have done that earlier. Because now I'm up against the clock because my resin is setting up. But we should be okay. And now we're just going to pour into the molds. I definitely recommend pouring, not necessarily pouring, but spraying your molds before you actually start mixing. That was my mistake. I should have been better about that. We'll still be okay, but just something to consider and be aware of in the future. One more. Okay, so there's our 4 bespoke blanks. Now I'm going to do some ring blanks. Oh, these are going to be awesome. I don't use mold release on my HDPE molds. They seem to do pretty well without it. Let's go ahead and pour some resin in this one. Pour. Sometimes I like to do these over pour pen blanks because they do have a pretty cool effect. So it looks like with this pour, we're going to get 2 regular standard pen blanks. We're going to get 2 ring molds, and we're going to get 4 bespoke or 2 ring blanks worth. So we'll actually get 8 ring blanks and then 4 bespoke blanks. So I'm going to load these into the pressure pot and get these into the pressure pot before they set up. Oh, that's not what I wanted to happen. Okay. It'll just be a minute. My air compressor is going to go off because it's a pancake compressor. So I'm going to get these into the pressure pot. I'll get these clamped up. And then I will come back and check the comments after the air compressor comes back on. It goes back off after it refills. I can't talk tonight. My California Air Tools pressure pot is really, really nice. I was able to pick one up from Woodcraft once they started carrying them, and it has opened a lot of doors. It's been good to me so far. Hopefully it'll be good to me for a lot longer too. All right. There's my air hose. All right, now that the air compressor is full again, I love that air compressor for 98% of what I do, but I just cannot get over how loud it is. I've been looking a lot at alternatives that are not as loud. I know Lowe's has a Cobalt Quiet Tech something or other that I've actually had experience with from other casters, and it is actually really quiet. So I've been looking at that one. I have a hard time justifying spending money on replacing a tool that otherwise does work really well for 98% of what I do. So I will pull these out of the pot probably before I go to bed tonight. It's about 5:40 now. So I will be pulling these out of the pot a little after 9:30. It is Alumilite clear slow, so I do leave them in a pressure pot for about 4 hours. And I will be sure to post pictures of the results tomorrow. It'll probably be tomorrow morning. But if anybody has anything in the chat, if you guys want to have a conversation, you guys want to ask questions as usual, throw them in there. We'll talk. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and end it here and call it a night. Throw these out. Didn't end up using this one. I know I'm really going to have to consider looking at a different scale. I don't know what the deal is with my scale, but it served me well for long enough. But I think it might just be time to step up. Seems like everything goes at once. Anything else for the chat tonight? Well, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. As always, it's been fun. I can't wait to do this again next Tuesday. Not sure what we'll do next Tuesday, but I'm sure it'll be a good time. Be sure to share this with your friends. Like the video. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. I've got some recorded footage that I have to edit that will be videos in the near future. So if you subscribe and ring the bell, you won't miss those. But otherwise, have a great night.